Welcome to the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. Over 90% of today's home buyers start their buyer journey online. Here we talk with not only industry experts, but also your fellow home builder marketers to learn how you can succeed in our incredibly competitive digital world. And now, here are your hosts, Greg Bray and Kevin Weitzel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm Greg Bray with Blue Tangerine.
And I'm Kevin Weitzel with Outhouse.
And we are excited today to have joining us Spencer Powell. Spencer is the CEO of Builder Funnel. Welcome, Spencer. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, Spencer, we know that you've been out there in the world of podcasting and content for a long time, but there might be a couple people who don't know you yet. So let's start off with an introduction, help people know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So as you guys said, Spencer Powell, I'm the CEO at Builder Funnel. I started this whole journey in 2010. Social media was coming onto the scene for businesses, and I thought that was interesting. So I started helping some friends and family clients. Then you kind of fast forward a little bit, it turned into an agency, and fast forward a little bit more. And this year we're about 32 people. We only serve design build remodelers and custom builders. And we're a strategic marketing firm. And we actually just found out a few weeks ago, we hit the Inc. 5000 list this year. So we've been growing pretty fast, and we try to help our clients grow as well.
Well, I was going to ask you about an interesting factoid, but making the Inc. list is pretty awesome. However, that's still business related. So let's go with something about you that our listeners don't know. Oh, and a little factoid before I get into that. Greg and I have been doing this for a little over 4 years now, and we've never had a repeat guest. You are officially our first repeat guest. Greg, what was he? Episode 1, 2, something like that?
He was episode 3.
Well, 1 and 2 was us, right?
Yeah, 1 and 2 is us. So Spencer was our very first guest. And we went back and looked and figured out that we probably didn't have everybody listen to it. So it might be time to bring him back.
It's not even like we're doing a wash, rinse, repeat of that same episode. We're actually talking about new subject matter. But anyway, so now that we've tackled that, Spencer, before we get into you and Builder Funnel, let's find out about you personally. A factoid about you that has nothing to do with work or the industry or anything. And you can't use the same factoid you used before.
I was wondering what the original factoid was. So why don't I give you 2 just in case?
Giddy up.
All right. This may have actually been the one. We'll go back and listen. I've eaten at every Chipotle in Colorado.
That's the one.
That's the one. There it is.
All right. So Chipotle, what's the next one?
One of my hobbies and things that I really, really love to do, and maybe in another lifetime, it would have been awesome to do as like a profession. But I love playing doubles volleyball. So beach volleyball or grass volleyball, but 2s.
Okay. Now, do you wear those tiny little bikini Speedos that they wear in the Olympics?
It's required. So yeah, I definitely do. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
The ideal is jean shorts and aviators.
Nice. You're going Top Gun theme there. Oh, I love it.
Oh, man. Spencer, tell us a little bit more about Builder Funnel for the folks that aren't as familiar with what you guys offer.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So I would say all things digital. We start with strategy first. We've been doing this 14 years now. And when we first started, it was kind of like, hey, we can do some stuff for you, right? Like we'll manage your social, we'll work on some SEO. And a lot of the times that stuff is good. That stuff will move the ball forward. But if you just take a quick second to pause and think strategically about what's this client trying to accomplish in terms of their goals, their objectives for the year, and then work your way back to a game plan, you end up with maybe similar tactics, maybe some different tactics in that plan, but everything is like laser focused towards those goals. And so we actually start every engagement with strategy first, and then we move to tactics. We take people through a marketing blueprint process, and then we'll get to SEO, content marketing, social media, email, lead conversion, reporting, like all the tactics. That's where we've really carved out our kind of niche within a niche, being in design, build, remodeling, custom building, the residential construction industry. But let's start with strategy and then move to tactics. We can also build a website, but we've taken a different approach to that too, where we lean more towards let's build a performance-based site versus like a custom site every single time.
All right, now, this is a serious question. I can't even say it with a straight face. So let me ask you this. In all this strategy and tactics, is there ever a wacky inflatable flailing tomb arm man that is deployed at any of your custom builders?
Usually, if you have a model, that is a big part of the tactics, because how else are you going to get the drive-by attention?
Boom.
Yeah. I actually like having an army of them together because you can't miss that.
Spencer, let's pull that word strategy apart a little bit. If you're like me, most people that call you are not saying, hey, I'm calling you because I need a strategy. They're calling because they need more leads or sales, or they're calling because, oh, I want SEO, or they have a specific thing that they think they need, or I need help on my social media, or I need whatever. How do you communicate with them that we need to take that big step backwards and look from a little bigger picture, higher level first? And what do those conversations look like?
Yeah. Well, Greg, why do you think you need SEO?
Oh, now he's going to role play me.
Oh, he just flipped the script on us, Greg.
But that is the first question, right? Because I want to show up on the search engine.
Why is that important?
Because my competitor does. And somebody told me at lunch that I should be, or something important like that.
So you just want to be higher than your competitor?
Of course.
Being higher than them on Google, like, what does that matter?
Well, I would expect that that's where my customers are searching for the services and products that I provide. And therefore, I want them to be able to find me so that they can buy my stuff.
Oh, so you need more customers. And thanks for playing along. I appreciate it. But I mean, that's really what it is, right? Because somebody will come to us and say, oh, we want to do more social media. They probably went to a conference, they saw a session, they listened to a podcast like this, and they're like, oh, that's the answer, right? Maybe it's the answer. Maybe it's part of the answer, or maybe you don't need it at all. Going back to your question of strategy, it's really, okay, what are the goals? Strategy is just saying, okay, I have this goal and this outcome, and then I'm going to allocate resources and options. The strategic part of it is saying, okay, I have a million different marketing options and I have a finite budget. How am I going to match the tactics and the budget in the best way possible to get to that goal? It's really just kind of resource management. And then obviously, if you have somebody that has proof that a certain tactic has worked for a similar type of business, then you can make a higher probability bet that, oh, maybe SEO plus, content marketing and a good lead conversion strategy is a good way to get to that goal.
Yeah, I love that definition of asking the why questions, because strategy really, in my mind, is about the why. Why are you doing this? Then when you understand the why, it's like you were just saying, is that really the best thing to accomplish your why? Or is there something else that might be a better use of those finite resources, right? Have you had any clients show up with infinite resources yet? Because I would like one of those, please.
Yeah, I've yet to run into them. Yeah.
Kevin gets those clients all the time. They have unlimited budgets and are just ready to spend.
No, but I do need to figure out how to tap into these multi-billionaires, like the Taylor Swifts of the world, that just have piles of money that they just give to their staff. And here's $100,000. I need this in my life. I really do.
So Spencer, have you ever asked those questions and you just get kind of that deer in the headlights response of, I don't know why, I'm just supposed to. Somebody told me I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah, you do get that, but I feel like if you just keep pulling on that thread, you usually can get to something. And sometimes it's a business objective. Hey, our revenue was down last year. I'm actually just trying to make it back to where we were. Or, oh, I really want to be at, double in 3 years. But even that, you can pull back a little more. And there's usually personal reasons tied to the business objectives too. It could be families expanding and growing, or you have goals to retire early, or you want to buy a boat, whatever it is. So yeah, I think when you do hit that point, if someone just keeps giving you the, I don't know, I just need it, I don't know. Over my career, as I've learned more about sales, I've learned to just keep going and asking the questions. Otherwise, if you don't actually get to the real answer, you've recognized this person doesn't actually have a problem they need to solve. They're just kind of fishing around for some information. I don't know, maybe they're trying to learn, but they usually don't actually want to do anything about it. If you have real pain or you have a real aspiration, then you do want to try to figure out how to solve that problem. And so there usually is a real thing behind that.
Everybody has pain points. No matter how successful your company is, there's always going to be something under a rock that you need to fix. But how often do you run into companies that are reaching out truly, that have pain points, but don't recognize where you uncover their pain points because they're just coming to you because they have IBS-itis. Hey, I was at a building knowledge session at IBS and they said something about SEO and I need to talk to somebody about this. How often do you find that it is truly just aimless and then you have to help them uncover what that aim and focus needs to be?
It's not the majority. Usually, if you've gotten on the phone, hopped on Zoom with somebody, they're willing to spend the time, you'll get to some sort of goal, pain, objective. Because even behind that, right? Like they go to a session and they're excited about something. They're excited about something because that something will hopefully get them to their goal. Even if there isn't a pain, they're like, business is good, but I want to be here. Then maybe you're pulling on a want, and that will be probably a little less powerful than a pain, but still something that they're trying to achieve.
So as you work through those strategies with your clients, and then you start to lay out, okay, to achieve these goals, here's the various tactics. We use the word tactics, right? These are the action items, the campaigns, the various directions we're going to go to achieve those goals. What are some of the things that a builder should do themselves versus the kinds of things that they really need that expert partner or agency to help them with?
It's a good question. The way I think about that is, what skills do you have internally already? And if you feel like, oh, our team is really good at social content, we're here, we have the context of the rest of the business, we kind of know what else is going on, we know the personality, the culture, so we're able to like pull that into social content really well. But maybe you don't have somebody on staff that knows how to do keyword research or make technical fixes to the website. So maybe you would outsource that. But I think that's one of the best ways to start, is just figuring out, where do we have some core strengths, and then where are we weak and what areas do we need to partner in. But I think a lot of it's honestly preference, right? Because if you really wanted to, you could just say, well, I might hire an SEO expert and a web expert, and then I might hire a social media expert, and then I might hire a paid ads specialist. Now, budget is a consideration. You go, well, maybe I can't afford all those people full time. So then, oh, maybe now I look for an agency or a freelancer that maybe has a small team, and I kind of get access to maybe a dozen skill sets, but for the price of one person because they're fractionalized, right? And I'm going to get to tap into their SEO knowledge and their paid ads knowledge and their social media knowledge. So I think it's generally preference and resource decision based.
Well, and you've been doing this for a few years. You've probably seen the same thing that I have, that 10, even 15 years ago, one person could do more than one of these skills and be decent at it. But in today's environment, the need to specialize is just continuing to grow and grow and grow. And it's really hard for somebody to be really good at a lot of those things. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. I mean, if you can find that person, they're a unicorn, doesn't mean they don't exist, but they probably will command premium salary. And yeah, I mean, even if you just break apart something like Google Ads, the amount of changes that you have to keep up with, the way you're structuring those ads, the way you're tying that in with even other concepts like landing page best practices and copywriting, with the way you're structuring your headlines and conversion rates. That's just one little part of digital marketing, but you truly can go super deep on that and become, a true expert. And so it's same for all the other mediums, right? And the different tactics.
Yeah, I always cringe a little bit when I talk to a builder who has one person who's doing everything for them in-house.
But Greg, Susie is good at Facebook and she just graduated high school and they can afford to have her do all that stuff. And she'll learn it, she'll figure it out, right?
She will eventually, yes. Yes. At what cost, right? At what cost? So Spencer, you're working on this strategy, you've got some ideas. If the builder's budget is such that there's only one thing that they can do. Now, granted, I'm going to say that it's not always the same answer. That's fair, right? It's not always the same answer. But in general, is there one thing that's kind of at the top of the list as the starting point in the plans that you guys put together?
It's a good question. Maybe I'll cheat and you can push back. It depends, like you said, because it depends on the outcome. It also depends on where you're starting from versus where you're trying to go. And you're looking at the competitive landscape too, like what is my competition doing versus not. Generally, I would say paid ads is a part of the strategy. And also, I'm going to say like content marketing, which includes SEO, like they go together in my mind in terms of like blogging, core service pages, like location-based terms that you're trying to show up for home builder in XYZ city. The reason I wanted to just say one of those or both is because the content SEO side is typically longer term. It's going to cost you more upfront, but then over time, typically your cost per acquisition will be lower because you're not paying for every single click. You've eventually earned all that traffic versus the paid side, you're continually paying. And then if you want more, you just need to pay more, but it's generally faster to get to the result. So if I were to pick two anchor pieces, those would be the two, because it's really balancing. We need to make progress now, but I also want to build for the long term. And that's where content marketing and SEO is really powerful.
So you're saying there's a lot of encyclopedia chapters, but those are the bookends.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Man, you should be getting paid the big bucks.
I should tell that to my senior partners. I do need to make the big bucks.
Well, I was told you make double what I do on this thing, Kevin.
Oh, double zero is not possible. I get double zero.
Well, Spencer, I appreciate your answer to that because it was a trick question, right? Because I think everybody perked up, oh, there's only one thing I need to do first, right? And there isn't. There isn't only one thing because it does depend. I completely agree with where you were headed there. There's things that bear fruit today. There's other seeds you have to plant and let grow longer. And content takes a lot of work and takes time for it to grow.
Yeah, it really does. And to tie in even the strategy piece that we started out with, maybe it's a builder that is getting tons of traffic to their website. The one thing that I might start with is actually like, let's work on your website's conversion rate. Maybe they're getting a bunch of traffic and it's decent traffic, but they're not converting many leads. And so that's where the context of the current scenario versus the goal is really important, because then you can say, oh, I only have enough budget for one thing. Well, that one thing might be for 6 months. Let's work on doubling your conversion rate. We might double your lead flow. And maybe we don't need to do any more paid ads or more content marketing right now, but obviously then they'll have a new goal in 6 months.
Well, and that's a great point. It changes over time. This stuff evolves. It's not a one and done kind of opportunity for sure. Hey everybody, this is Greg from Blue Tangerine, and I just wanted to personally invite you to join Kevin and me at the upcoming Home Builder Digital Marketing Summit. It's going to be October 23rd and 24th in Raleigh, North Carolina. You do not want to miss this. We're going to have marketing education. We're going to have online sales counselor education. We're going to have networking, roundtable discussions, and of course, a whole lot of fun. So make sure you get registered today and join us. You can get all the details at buildermarketingsummit.com. Can't wait to see you there. So let's talk a little bit more about the content piece then, because I think a lot of people like that idea. They know that they should be creating content, but they're probably not sure what kind of content to create, how to get it out the door in a timely manner or in a recurring process. There's a lot that goes into that. What are some of the suggestions you have for creating a powerful content program?
Don't do it. I'm just kidding. As you were talking, I was thinking, gosh, I've been doing content for almost 14 years. We try to be a good example to our clients. Like, hey, the services we're proposing you do, we do all those things for ourselves and we do a lot of them. I do a lot of content. It's a lot of work, not going to lie. But I think some of the easiest ways to get started, let's first maybe break apart content, because there's written content, there's audio content, and there's video content. Written content, I think, is still a no-brainer. That's a very easy place to start, and that ties you in with your SEO strategy. So think blogs, website pages, written form, and you can tie in a keyword to your approach there. So that is a great place to start and keep going. Then when we like layer on video content, you're thinking, okay, I've got video on my website, I've got my YouTube channel, I've got social. So now you've got medium form content, maybe long form content, you've got really short form content, and it starts to really balloon in terms of how am I thinking through creating all of this? What's the strategy behind it? Can I keep it up? The consistency piece is really critical. If you're starting from zero, let's start with a blog. And if you don't like writing, partner with somebody, find an agency, a freelancer, have somebody on your team do the writing. And then when you go to video, I think it's powerful if you can build behind with some personal brand. So Maybe that's the CEO, maybe it's a VP of marketing or sales, or maybe it's just somebody that's great on camera. But if you have somebody that's willing to get in front of the camera, you'll have the consistency piece. And then it's just a matter of identifying topics. And maybe that was part of what your question was. And I think one of the best ways is just to break apart everything you do and then answer questions about it. So, what does the process look like for getting qualified to buy a home? What's the process for picking a plan selection? What's the process of the construction of the home? And what's the order? And what's my involvement as the homeowner? What should I expect at these different phases? And you can start breaking down everything from that perspective of questions. And I think an easy place to get that is talk to the sales team, because they get lots of questions that they have to answer all the time. And then you turn that into content. And then not only can the salesperson use that content and share it, but people will start finding that. And then you get the benefit of educating them and adding value to them through their marketing, which is one of the reasons I love content marketing, is because it's a style of marketing that you can pretty much do unlimited of and feel good about it if you're truly trying to educate and bring some value to the audience, knowing that, like, hey, if 100 people see this and only one buys, hopefully the other 99 still learned something new and got something out of it.
And as you said, it's a lot of work. You used the magic word consistency in there. And I think that's one of the secrets, in my opinion, is figuring out how to stay consistent. I can't tell you how many times I see a blog that has like 3 or 4 articles, especially when you date them. If you're not going to do it very consistent, then don't put dates on them, right? But they have a few articles out there, and then it's been 6 months since the last one, right? Or whatever. And you're just like, wonder what happened here. How do we stay consistent with it? What are some secrets?
Yeah, the magical secrets to consistency. I mean, I think this is the crux of a lot of things, right? Whether it's lifting weights or sticking to a food plan, or, anything that you want to do. If you are committed to content marketing, then you will stay consistent. At the end of the day, it's probably not secrets, it's nuts and bolts of, hey, this is the cadence that we're committing to, and putting it on the calendar. Like for me, I film once a month, I pre-plan the content, and I shoot the videos in 3-4 hours or whatever it is. It's on the calendar, so it happens, right? We're probably talking habits and, psychology and stuff like that. Or you can pay somebody. Some stuff that I'm not good at staying consistent with, just hire it out, because then I'm paying for this to happen.
Wait a minute. You said you could relate it to like weightlifting, and you kind of, puffed your chest a little bit. And then you said, or sticking to an eating plan, and you looked directly at me, Spencer.
Did I?
Holy, no, you didn't. Just joking. Just joking.
This is audio only.
To, break up the monotony of us geeking out here.
Well, I think the lack of consistency is what kills a lot of good marketing programs, and takes a lot of strategies. And then, later somebody comes back and say, well, you told me this 6-8 months ago and nothing's working. I'm not getting anything, and it's like, well, yeah, the consistency hasn't been there. I think it's one of the secrets, and you're right. There's no simple answer to it other than to just make it important enough to get it done.
Yeah, it is really hard because at the beginning you don't see any results. And so there is kind of this leap of faith with some of it. One of my favorite examples of that is a personal example. I'm in Colorado Springs. I grew up here from 4th grade on. Probably everyone in whatever city you're in has like a similar thing to this, but it was a jeweler. They're on the radio and you just hear the same ad for the same jeweler over and over and over again, because they were just consistent, right? I was 8 years old, then 10, then 12, then on and on and on and on. Years later, I end up getting my engagement ring there. And I think about that a lot, because if they just would have run like 4 ads, nope. But they did that for decades. And so you stack that up and you just go, oh, Spencer's just one customer. He bought one ring there. Well, now I've purchased a couple of other things from that same location. So their lifetime value has grown from me. But how many other people like me were also listening to the radio and heard that ad 30, 50, 100, 200 times over multiple years? For me, that was a great consistency plus branding example, because when it came time to make that type of purchase in my life, it was like, oh, well, I already know somebody there. I already have a solution. But that's hard, right? Like that's over a decade.
Nationally, you've got Arby's that they have the meat. Everybody knows it. And subliminally, if I'm thinking of a meat sandwich, I'm thinking Arby's. But what about the JD Wentworths of the world that do that silly thing where everybody's in a bus and they start singing operatically about calling his number and the number is part of the jingle? It just sticks in your brain. I don't know what JD Wentworth was or does or if they're even still around.
But
All
you
I
know how
know
to
is
get a
that.
hold of them.
But if I just sat here and maybe smoked a doobie or something, I could recite that entire commercial just from
Yeah.
how many times I've heard it.
It's an interesting thing.
I like the jewelry example too, Spencer, because it's an example of a rare and more expensive purchase. You don't do that every day, just like you don't buy a home every day. The ad to go buy some new shoes or new clothes or whatever, more impulse buy type of opportunity is a little different, where you get that return potentially in a much shorter time frame. But buying a home, who knows where that person is a few years from now when they're not shopping today and being able to be there, but yet you want the sale today as opposed to a few years from now, right? So that's what we're all looking for, is how do we get in front of the people today versus planting those seeds for the ones for next year and the year after.
And that's where I think too, we can tie in that to like the content marketing SEO piece. Let's just use that same jewelry example. Let's just say they spent 50 grand a year on the radio ads. Well, in year one, maybe they got a few customers or whatever it is. Then year two, you kind of start to get this stack effect because now you've had all this repetition, more people are aware, so you get a few more. You fast forward to year 10, I'm sure costs have gone up a little, so it's not perfectly 50 grand every year, but you can roughly spend the same, but you're getting more output by year 10 from that compounding nature. Content marketing and SEO is similar. If you write a whole bunch of blogs in year one, there's a good chance that like some of them moved up in the rankings, but maybe none of them are like number one. Maybe you hit first page for a couple, but then you go to year two and you stack on, maybe now you got 24 blogs and you got 48 blogs and you got 100 blogs. And now your site is so much stronger and all these blogs are starting to move up in the rankings and you're investing a similar amount each year, but now you're getting more traffic and more leads by a mile than you did in that first year. And so I think there are some marketing efforts that are like that versus paid ads, where it's very much not that way, where you're just, I'm paying for the amount of clicks and traffic I can get and conversions. If I want more, I just need to pay more.
When you look back at your own experience with that, because you've been creating your own content for many years, has it worked for you? Are you getting that compounding effect?
Yeah. And I think a lot of that, we've continued to grow our business consistently as well. In addition to the compounding effect, you also get those stories where somebody comes to you and they're like, I've been listening to the podcast for 6 years and the timing is now right. Until you've experienced it, like it's easy to just hear me talk about it or listen to the jewelry example. It's really hard to do because you're forking over the cash every year. And when it's your cash and it's your time and it's your energy, it is really hard to start from zero. But there's data out there to support it. There's numerous examples out there to support it. And if you can experience it for yourself, you'll get hooked because you see the power in it. And again, to reference my earlier point, you get to add value through content, which is a nice benefit to running your marketing program versus I'm just trying to like jam stuff in front of people and just get their name and email at any cost. You really actually can build a relationship. People feel like they know your brand, your company, your people by the time they actually do meet you in person or connect with you on a one-to-one basis.
I think that ties into a really key point about trust and relationships that is probably an even bigger deal for the smaller builder than maybe the large one who's got specs that are move-in ready and things like that, where somebody can walk in, look at this home. I don't need to know a lot about this builder. It's just, do I like this house or not? And is it in the right place? Whereas that smaller custom builder or the remodeler who's doing a project that's unique and special and just for you, you have to remember you're selling trust before you're even selling the actual service and product, because it doesn't exist. It will be a one-of-a-kind kind of thing. And what you're getting at is building trust, I think. Would that be a fair analysis of kind of where you were going with that?
Yeah, 100%. It's a nice, comfortable way for your prospects to get to know you at a distance. They can binge watch all your YouTube videos. They can scroll your social media from the comfort of their home, behind a screen. They can really get to know you as a person, as an individual. They can see some personality. All of that can come through content. Then when they sit down and meet with you and talk about their project, their comfort level is much higher. One of the things I really like to talk about the power of content marketing is I think content marketing creates referral type leads. Referral is great because if Kevin is like, hey, Spencer, you should work with Greg, and I already trust Kevin and know Kevin, then I'm like, great, now I trust Greg. The trust is built into a referral. Content marketing creates a very similar thing because someone gets to know you. For you guys, like you have regular listeners of this podcast, I bet you have a lot of people that spend more time with you than their best friends and some of their family members because you're in their ears every week for half an hour, right? And over a year, if they don't miss an episode, which I know they don't, that's like 50, 100 hours, whereas they may spend, 20 with their best friend or close family member.
Should we sprinkle in some affirmations then? Like, doggone it, you're smart, you're good enough, you're pretty, and people like you. Should we sprinkle those in like Stuart Smalley?
It can't hurt.
Greg, I think we're missing out on something here. We could be like lifting people up while feeding their brains.
I'm just starting to feel sad for some of them that they're stuck with us that often. But to Spencer's point, it is a fascinating psychological insight about how people trust the people that they just spend time with and that they get to know through educational information, the person who educates you and teaches you about process and the way it works and who's there all the time. It just kind of grows and there's something there that builds trust and it's real. It's real.
Yeah, the data backed parts of it are like the law of reciprocity and things like that, where you're just like, oh, this person's just been giving me helpful information for so long. There's just so many benefits to content marketing.
Well, Spencer, it's been a great conversation. Want to be respectful of your time. Just any last words of advice that you wanted to share today with our audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, I guess since we've been talking a lot about content marketing, I would encourage you to take it seriously. That piece is not going away. And maybe I'll close with an example. I don't know the year, and I'm probably just making up all the details about this, so it doesn't matter. But way back, I'm thinking like it's either from the early 1900s or maybe even the late 1800s. Somebody can fact check me after this, it's fine. But John Deere, they started a print magazine, and the print magazine was free to subscribe, and farmers would subscribe to it. And it had all these farming best practices and how to, make your farm more profitable and all this kind of stuff. And so they built a big audience. But within that magazine, they featured their equipment and they sold a lot of equipment out of that too. If you think about what that was just content marketing through a print magazine. Whatever medium takes shape 10, 20, 30 years from now, there's still going to be content marketing. That idea of how do I add value through marketing, educate my buyer, help them make a good decision. And by doing so, you will attract more of an audience, and that audience will be warmer, they'll trust you more, and they'll be excited to buy from you.
Well, thank you, Spencer, for spending time with us. If somebody wants to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I enjoyed it. Builderfunnel.com is the best place to find us. Yeah, if you like social media, Builder Funnel on Instagram, check out our YouTube channel. We have a podcast. But if you just type in Builder Funnel, you'll find whatever you're looking for.
Well, thanks, Spencer. And thank you, everybody, for listening today to the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm Greg Bray with Blue Tangerine.
And I'm Kevin Weitzel with Outhouse. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about how Blue Tangerine and Outhouse can help you generate more qualified home buyer leads, visit bluetangerine.com and outhouse.net. If you've enjoyed our show today, please tell a friend, leave us a review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to join us again on the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast.